Hello, everyone. Welcome to our whitelisting webinar. But my name is Nicole. I'm Associate Director at influencerhero. I'm so happy to be here with everyone. We are very excited to have the next session of our webinars. There's a lot of different topics that we want to cover throughout the year. So much going on in the creator space, so much going on in the digital space as well. And we want to know and we want to learn about everything. So this time we have brought an expert, Nick. He's the co-founder and COO of DOE Media. Nick, I would love to hear a little bit more about you, where you're coming from.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in today. Quick background on myself. I've been a serial e-commerce entrepreneur for about 15 years. And before I started and owned Doe, I started my own e-commerce companies in tons of different spaces and grew them to millions of dollars and sold a variety of them. One was even an indoor plant company in Chicago, which is crazy. I've been in the founder seat many times on the e-com side. And along the way, a bunch of brands were asking us, like, hey, Nick, how did you guys help build your own businesses? And they were all through Facebook ads, Google ads, and email marketing. And so we decided, me and my two co founders, to pull our resources together. And we started Doe about 7 years ago. So today we work with some of the most notable brands in the world and even some smaller brands that we've taken from a couple million all the way up to hundreds of millions. So we spend about 600 million a year across Facebook, TikTok, and Google. Generated over $2 billion in revenue. And we were, like I said, we've introduced AliExpress into the United States. We work with Cuts Clothing, which is the shirt I'm wearing right now, Symbiotica, Girls Crew, tons of amazing e-commerce brands.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And so I said we're bringing the experts, and Nick is definitely a great example of that. And everything that you guys have done at DOE Media, we're currently partners, so we love hearing about the different projects and strategies that they're bringing in. And in conversation with them, something that we've realized is that a lot of people, a lot of brands are treating influencer marketing and their social media ads as completely different things. But there's actually an amazing bridge. That's bringing both worlds together, and that is whitelisting. So we really want to talk about what whitelisting is, how to do it, what's in it for creators, how to create a solid strategy. Of course, numbers matter. We think that they're super important. And then at the end, we're also going to have some time for Q&A from the audience. Now, everyone that's listening to us, if you want to ask questions, you will need to verify your email first. So if you want to, before we get started, check in your email, make sure that you have verified your email account to Crowdcast so that we can answer all of your questions, we can interact with you, and we can really make sure that we clear any doubts today. But yeah, let's dive right in. What is whitelisting, Nick? And why should we do it?
Yeah, so whitelisting is basically taking the creator ads and running those as your own ads. And there's a couple different ways that I know that we'll get into, how to get whitelisting approved. But, whitelisting is something that we've been doing for many years, even before, all of the crazy rush of e-commerce and COVID and all of that era. Whitelisting was still a thing even back then. And so this is something that isn't necessarily new, but it's getting bigger and bigger as the creator economy is growing.
Absolutely. And why should we do it? If I'm a
So
brand, I know nothing about this, why should I do it? Pitch it
yeah,
to me.
100. Yeah, so this is one of those levers that you can actually use to unlock new audiences. So that's going to be the biggest lever that I love, especially for the new Facebook Andromeda update that I'm sure maybe we could put some twos in the chat if you know what Facebook Andromeda update is, so we can get a sense of who's in the chat. But essentially, if you're working with different influencers and creators and they're in different niche markets, they're going to make content that fits their niche market, which means if we can put those ads along with our products and their creator network, we're going to expand our overall audience network when we're working with those creators. The other thing that it allows us to do is test a variety of personas. You don't have just one persona that is buying your product or service. And so being able to match different personas and expand your customer profile with different personas through creator ads is a great way to leverage influencer and partnership ads. And no one loves being advertised to. And so while you're scrolling all day on TikTok and Facebook, you want to see something that feels a little bit more natural, right? And so these ads feel more natural as it comes from Nicole. Nicole is selling, this, and she's not necessarily selling it to you. She might be just talking about her day and and placing the product or service within it. So it feels more native to the user and ultimately increases click-through rates and lowers cost per acquisition.
No, and I totally resonate with what you said about we're all like no one wants to be advertised to. We're all paying to not be advertised. So I love this idea as someone that works a lot on the creator space. Brands always are always looking for ways in which all the content can be more organic. They're behind the storytelling. They're behind the day-to-day use, or even like the luxurious feel of a product. And we really want to convey that through the ads that we're doing. So if you are already working with influencers, it's just the best of the influencer marketing world and what you're already doing, plus lots of benefits that you can get from social media, which is great. And you mentioned also there's a couple of different how-tos or different ways in which we can implement this. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the different ways you can implement it or is like allow listing, partnership ads, ad codes. So, there's many different ways to add it into your system. I like running the partnership ads, and you can test these as, do you want to do it as Nick plus Nick and Doe Media? Do you want to do just Doe Media? Do you want to do just Nick? So we'll do even tests like that. And we will run sometimes for some brands, we have hundreds of creator ads going every single month. And we're constantly onboarding new creators to find what are the top creators that work for us, who actually is gravitating and working with our product really well, who's making the best videos. So many different ways that we can use creator marketing.
And which one do you, to someone that's getting started, which one or which method would you recommend most?
I like partnerships, and allow lists for sure. I think they're the easiest. There's a couple platforms, and I know you guys might be working on something like this where you can just click a button and have that creator work right into your system.
Hey, no, I think that sounds super great. We are working on a couple of things, which I thank you for mentioning that. And also, if you're someone that's has a strong social media ad game, but you don't have an influencer marketing program at the moment, this is something that you really, really need to look into because that is going to be it's one of the pillars of whitelisting at the end of the day. Through different platforms, Influencer Hero is one of them, but there's also different ones in which we can source creators and you can like Nick mentioned there's so many personas, so many niches and audiences that we want to tap into. um, we can do that. We can also do a little bit of social listening, and I would love to get into more of that, like the organic side of how we could potentially whitelist. Anything you could share to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the organic side, everybody thinks you have to just pay for creators to post and all that, and that's cool. But when you're working with a bunch of creators and they're pumping out organic content, the best thing and to increase the volume of that, incentivize their volumes. There's many different ways that we'll get into incentivizing creators, but when you have a bunch of creators that are posting content organically, you can pick and choose which of those creators and videos are actually getting the most reach on whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube Shorts, because the algorithm's already going to say, this is a good piece of content. Let's go
Mhm.
and use this ad or use this organic piece of content and run paid media behind it. So that's why I love flooding the system with different creators, different social posts, because if it did good in organic, 9 times out of 10, it is going to do absolutely amazing with paid ads. And we've got ads that we've been running for many, many months that maybe it got, 5,000 views or something, right? But everything else got a couple hundred views. Now we take that ad and we throw some media behind it. Now that ad can be generating tens of thousands, if not millions for us, getting millions of views. So that's why I love the organic piece and how it fits into this paid media creator world.
And you just mentioned about flooding, right? So flooding content. If I had to choose between having a couple of good pieces of media that I'm going to be running or testing hundreds potentially, which route would you go and why?
I think it depends on where you're at in the marketing world and where you're at as a business. So I'll talk through the couple different options. If you're a
Mm.
smaller brand with limited budget, you do want to be more uh, selective on which creators you work with. You want to make sure they absolutely match your style, your persona. They have good quality videos. They have good lighting, good sound. We want to be selective because our dollars are very limited, so we have to use them in a limited capacity. And that does take a lot of time to find those creators. If you're a brand that's mid-sized or a little bit larger, you might have the funds to work with tons of influencers, and you're going to get a benefit from. You still want to look at their quality. Hey, what kind of videos do they do? You always want to look at the quality of the videos for sure. You don't just want to give this to anybody. You definitely don't want to give it to beginners because we don't
Yeah.
want to pay them or have them, be the guinea pig there. But if you can get volume plus creative, that's how you're going to get the best outcome. Like, for example, we'll do this on TikTok Shop a lot. We actually sample 200 creators a week on TikTok Shop. So that's about 800 creators minimum a month that we're sending samples to. Of those 800 samples, we probably get back 50 to 100 really good creators. The rest are not that great. They could be good for other niche markets, but maybe they weren't for us. But really,
Mhm.
we only need a couple creators. And of those 50 to 100 creators, maybe 10 of them are our top 1% creators. Those are the creators we want to put on retainer, and we want them to become a part of our family, a part of our ecosystem, and have them feel like they're a part of our team because those creators, they're going to generate the millions while everybody else generated a couple thousand.
And how do you make them that part of an extension of your team? How do you make them feel connected with your brand and not lose interest? Because of course, over at the beginning, you're the new thing. Maybe your brand is something that they're testing, but over time, because you mentioned you have been running a couple of ads for a couple months. So how do you keep them interested in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and the underlying of that is all these other brands are also gunning for that creator because if they're a good creator for you, they're probably going to be a good creator for other people, especially in that niche market. So it is a competition. Once you get a good creator, doesn't mean they're going to last forever. So we found a couple ways that to incentivize creators and make them, a part of our ecosystem. So number one, it's weekly coaching sessions. We will get creators on, we bring them into our own, we get their numbers, we get them into WhatsApp. We're always chatting with them and sharing ideas, helping them. Because, I think a lot of brands, they just send the product to the creator and they hope that they are just going to make the best stuff ever. Well, no one's ever going to know the business like you know it. And so you want to give them all the tools and things that they need and stay in constant communication. Number two, you want to treat them like a human. And this sounds kind of weird, but I think so much of this world is so transactional that if every brand is treating creators like it's just a transaction versus like, hey Pamela, how was your day? Like just treating them like a human. Write down their birthday. Send them a gift. Send them, take them out, send them a gift to go get dinner. Ask them about their kids. Like treat them like you would an employee and how you retain employees and make them feel like they're a part of your ecosystem. And then number three is incentivizing. At the end of the day, everybody is in this to get more money and to increase their overall profitability. And creators are the same way. Right now, creators have the most leverage more than brands. And
Yeah.
that might switch again in the future, but for the past couple years and definitely moving forward, creators own the power. And so if you can build incentivized programs that have goals that they can achieve, hey, if you can get X number of views and post X number of videos, we're going to give you a bonus on top of what we already pay you. Hey, you need a guarantee. I learned this a long time ago in creative world. The number one thing that creators don't know is how much money they're going to make next month, 3 months, or in 6 months because they have to keep creating it. So if you can build a relationship with creators where you say, hey, Jessica, I'm going to actually pay you $1,000 every month for the next 3 months. All I need you to do is make this number of videos. And by the way, if you hit this extra bonus of these KPIs, I'm going to give you a bonus on top of that. Now they've got a guaranteed payment. They don't have to chase around for other payments, so they feel more comfortable. Now they know that they have an incentivized program and they're feeling a little bit more a part of our ecosystem.
And you mentioned that it's great when you find those creators that are very much on your niche, but I would say that this is also a great way to find new niches and to expand beyond that. And you have probably seen this quite a bit with when testing new creatives, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot to I didn't see a ton of twos in the chat, so there might not be a lot of people that know about Facebook and drama to update. So I'll cover that just real quickly. Basically, one major change that Facebook made both organically and on the ad side is they are serving more ads and organic videos to things that you are interested times 10. They always kind of did this. This is like the TikTokification, we'll say. And so if you're interested in fitness, you're going to get a ton of fitness videos. Now, the flip side of that is that if you click on a fitness ad, now you're going to get a bunch of other fitness ads. So having diverse creators in that niche is going to help build trust and ultimately drive more conversions. And so if you're expanding your creators, my product can fit for the fitness people. My product can fit for the walkers, the runners, all the different niches, even within that niche market, you're going to expand your ads to reach those people. And ultimately, that's the name of the game in the new Andromeda update.
And I love that. I've been talking with some brands about this because influencers can sometimes stay at the top of the funnel. And I think that whitelisting is just a great way to deepen that and also to play into the exclusivity or, hey, if everyone is talking about this and all I'm seeing is X brand, then it must be something important. It must be real. I can't miss out on this. Exclusivity is one of the core values I would say of influencer marketing, and everybody wants to feel special, like they're seen, like they belong. And so I think this is a way in which we can definitely bring everyone to conversions.
Yeah,
What do you think about
I want to double down on that just so everyone like really captures that. If you click on an ad or someone clicks on one of your ads, they're now in your ecosystem for retargeting. If you have a bunch of different creators talking about different selling points, they have different personas, different looks, different ages, not only are your customers going to see, wow, why are all of these people talking about this product? They're going to get hit with all the different selling components of all the different perspectives from those creators, which is ultimately going to build up more credibility and drive more conversions. So that's not just a content volume to find the best winners. It is having enough creative diversity that influences customers to buy from your brand.
Yeah. No, I think this is all fantastic, and I totally agree with everything that you said. We are seeing more and more some brands that were hesitant towards the creator economy. And now, if you are not doing a creator program, you need to understand that this is not an option and that this is a must. This is something that you need to do. Same with some brands that didn't have a solid social media presence. This is no longer an option because it is the way that people see you. They get to know you. It's your reputation, it's your credibility, it's how you are perceived. You can be luxurious if people don't know anything about you and what you offer. And now this is all fantastic, and we understand why we need to do it, and that this is the best thing ever. But something that I get a lot of questions on is how do I get creators to actually be a part of my program, how to approach them. And I have a couple of things, but what do you say specifically from like the whitelisting perspective? What's something that brands need to absolutely do in order to get creators to be a part of their program?
Number one, you need to start recruiting and never stop. You need to have this as a part of your system, whether it's your job. I hope it's not another thing that you're taking on, but bring in someone on your marketing team and dedicate at least 10, 20, maybe even 30% of their time to constantly building out their creator army. Because there's so many ways you can use this creator army, whether it's for organic videos, ideation, scaling ads. There's so many different benefits. And if you never stop recruiting, you're going to have an army. We have brands that we work with where they have discords of 10 to 20,000 creators. Now, I'm not saying everyone here is going to build out a creator network that big, but just to give you an idea of what you're up against, that doesn't mean you can't start with 5, 10, or 20 creators. Even if you have
Mm.
10 or 20,000 creators, there's still only going to be 1 to 5% of them that are the top creators. So if you start today and you're constantly looking for creators, there's tons of amazing tools. Influencer Hero is one that we recommend all of our partners utilize. And they're, even
Mhm.
in your everyday life, you meet someone that's charismatic and be like, hey, would you ever want to make ads for me? Like, never be afraid to add people into your ecosystem.
And that truly brings the organic into the organic side when you're meeting people about. But something that I think it's super important for everyone to know is that you don't need to start super big or with a lot of money. Like you can't, I think that doing, we always call them like a test run where you do an organic exchange. Hey, test out my product if you like it. And then you can see from there, maybe it didn't drive a lot of conversions, but the content was really good and it got a lot of engagement. Continue exploring that route. But if it's someone that didn't work, it's okay because you didn't commit to doing, like a $10,000 partnership at the very beginning, not knowing, flying in blind and not knowing what's going to happen. Now, what's in it for creators? What do they get besides, of course, compensation, monetary compensation?
Before I go through that, I think you said something really awesome there that I really want to double down on. And it's, if you've never done influencer marketing with paid media behind it, or you've done just, oh, I got one creator, two creators, five creators, and it didn't work, that is not enough. Like, a
Mm,
big takeaway for everybody is,
yeah.
just because you tried it doesn't mean, oh, this doesn't work for my brand. We have brands where 50% of their budget is all behind creator ads. So you need to constantly be looking for that creator that is going to work for your brand. Don't just start with a couple. Sorry, I just want to, because
Yeah.
it's just so important. And I've talked to so many brands that are like, yeah, I tried it, it didn't work. Great, you just picked the wrong creators then. And then incentivizing what's in it for the creators. At the end of the day, it's all about monetization, like we talked about earlier. Building out those incentive programs and making them KPI based plus retainer based is going to be the best way that aligns both people. I learned this a long time ago. The best way to incentivize salespeople or get the outcome that you want from anyone you're working with is to build a really good incentivized program that incentivizes your outcome. It's
Yeah.
as easy as that. Make it simple, make it easy, make it achievable, and make some competitions. When you've got 10, 20, or 50, or even 100 or 1,000 creators, and you know that they've been making content for you, do a
Mm.
contest. Hey, we're doing $1,000 this month to whoever drives the most views, purchases, revenue, however you want to do it. Now you've got all these people in a competition to get that $1,000, right? There's so many different ways, and we're all human. What would motivate you is probably what would motivate somebody else.
Yeah. Plus, they're also going to get a lot of exposure if you have a reputable brand. That mention that I think that a lot of brands are forgetting to pitch themselves to creators, and it's like we're asking them for a favor. Please do this in exchange for money. But there's actually so much that your brand, if you believe in your product, your experience, whatever you want to promote, pitch that also. Hey, make creators feel like they are going to be behind if they don't jump into your boat as well. Um, and overall, I think that consistency and communication is also so important because creators can see that right away. Now, I do want to share, I have a little table because one of the main questions that we get is also about compensation. And so there's a little table here. You're all going to be able to find this after the webinar as well. But and this is, I mean, it's a range because it can depend. But how much, if I have an influencer partnership, how much extra do I pay them if I want to run ads? And so we have, this is what we generally see. It will depend on the niche, on so many things, like the difficulty of deliverables. But you can see some of the compensation or estimated compensation that we recommend for creators. The first table would be just for the for like a partnership, and then on top of that, you do need to add a little bit of an increase based on the usage right period that you want to work with them. I would say typically 6 months is what we negotiate for, but these are all normal. Now, perpetual. This is also something I wanted to touch on because do you see creators accepting perpetuity, or do you see them like going back with them and renegotiating extra fees for usage?
Yeah, I see a mix in the market, right? Like just this past week, we had one of our top creators for a beauty brand, which beauty is incredibly competitive. And she knew she was the best creator for us because she could see the data publicly. And she came back
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, I don't want to get paid 6% of ad spend anymore. I want to get paid 10% of ad spend, or I'm not making any more content." And that goes down to the brand. Do you have other creators in your pipeline? Do you want to give out 10% of ad spend to that creator? So I think it's mixed, and everybody's going to be in a different growth stage, different profitability stage. So every brand is different. There's no one size that fits all. I would say in general, what we're seeing is a 2 to 5% of ad spend creator fee behind whether you're doing that for TikTok Shop or you're doing that for Meta ads. That's generally what we're seeing. And then top creators are wanting up to 10% of ad spend. Now, that
Wow.
can get very expensive. And so, if you're going to go this route, I'm going to urge all brands to really stay on top of your media buying team, or if you're doing the media buying yourself or an agency, what have you, make sure they understand, hey, this is how much I'm paying for this creator. Do not spend $1 on this creator unless they're actually working. Now, I don't want this to work against you and say, oh, I'm afraid to spend on this ad, because some of these creator ads could end up being your top performing ads. And so you might have to have different KPIs for these ads because you have to factor in that 10% of ad spend. So I think there's definitely different ways to do it. Some other creators will do, hey, I made this video and I want to get paid as long as this is running. You can
Yeah.
negotiate. I like to do all outright if I can. But it is a creator that you want to work with long term, or maybe you can start with a couple small projects and maybe do, hey, I'll pay you for every month that I use it. But if you can move to a percentage model that works for you, because 10% to me personally is still pretty high. If you can get something in that 2 or 3, maybe even 5% range, now they're incentivized to win just as much as you. And then incentive is going to go to them. They're going to start making volumes of videos, and they're going to focus on quality, because if they can get a good quality ad and they can see what's working and you're sharing that feedback with them, hey, so and so, this ad was working, can you make more of that? They can go and double down on that and make even better videos. And now we're both incentivized and aligned.
Yeah, it ends up being a win-win situation for everyone at the end of the day. And that's what we want. We want for creators to be an extension of our teams. And I think that so many brands get that wrong. And I know it sounds repetitive, but they need to be part of your team. You can't see them as different silos. Like we went back to the beginning. People are treating these as two separate issues, but they can be one and the same. We want to we want revenue to go up, and this is a tool to do it, but it needs to be in your tool belt. Now, if I'm running whitelisted ads, I'm probably also going to be running some type of branded ad native to what I'm seeing, to what I'm doing, my brand. What percent would you recommend? Or is there like a split that you would recommend between branded ads and whitelisted ads?
Yeah, I would say there's no magic number. I'm a big data nerd, right? So I will, and that's the name of our company, DOE. That stands for Data Over Ego. And so we're always all about the numbers. If you're spending nothing on creator ads today, you got to start dabbling 5 to 10% of budget minimum. And if you're only
Mhm.
spending a couple thousand, like, okay, let's give it more of a budget, a couple $1,000s, right? But I would say if you have a decent budget, 5 to 10% is a starting range, and see where that takes you, right? If you're seeing creator ads are working really well, don't stop investing in there. Double down on that. And I've been doing this for Facebook ads and Google ads and TikTok for a really, really long time. There's always trends, right?
Mhm.
Back
Yeah.
in 2016 to 2020, unboxing videos were really good. And then static became really big again. And then everyone was doing video. If everybody is doing this and your entire feed is filled with something, like let's say you open up your Instagram and you're seeing nonstop UGC just from everybody, maybe it's
Yeah.
time to do some branded and static. If everyone's doing branded and static, let's go and do some UGC. I always like to test what's also working, but also what is not, so that I can stand out in the feed. So, like I said, I've got brands that spend 50% of their budget on this. I've got brands that do the entire budget on this. I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket, because you're always going to want to have different stuff, like things are always going to trend differently, but definitely having at least a small portion to start.
And when we have different creators. Now, do you test different creatives per creator, or do you stick with one creative that's really great and then until you do the next one?
I think it comes down to budget, right? And the personas and how much you can flex, right? So, and what your goals are. If your goals are, hey, I want to double my company over the next year, you're going to probably have to put some big investment in and say, well, why haven't I doubled in the past? Or maybe you have. And understand what is actually driving performance today, and that's why it's good to do a creative audit, which, by the way, we're happy to do a creative audit for any brand that's here today for free and take a look at what you're doing, how we can utilize Influencer Hero and other aspects of creative. But we have
Mhm.
different pillars at DOE Media that we look at to say, here's our personas, and here's the different types of creative within those personas that we want to hit, so that we're always double downing on what works, but always trying to do the next thing that we're not hitting on. And sometimes things don't work, right? And there's no sense of, hey, we've tested, you know, 10 or 20 different variations of this one thing that's not working, but we've got all these other things that are working. Go and do this stuff. Double down on this stuff.
Yeah, and I like the idea, and we follow the same philosophy for influencer programs. The idea of how having an always on testing group or testing phase, besides everything else. So we're going to see from there. That's what's going to feed our pipeline onto the things that are working, and where we're really going to get to know what is generating revenue or whatever KPI you want to measure. Sometimes it's also about, it can be about awareness. But since I mentioned KPIs, what numbers, what metrics should a brand be looking at? Which ones are the most important, you think, when running whitelisting ads?
So if you're using a third party tracking system, the number one thing that I look at is what is the percentage of new customers reached? Because at the end of the day, Meta and all other platforms, they're rolling out all these AI systems because they want to make more money. Everybody thinks, oh, but wouldn't, if I made more money as a brand, wouldn't I pay more money for ads? Meta and all these platforms know that they have you hooked on their drug of advertising. And so
Yeah.
they're always coming out with systems to get you to spend more to make less, which again, counterintuitive, but all these brands that have built their businesses off these systems, they don't have another choice. So you're going to spend money whether you like it or not. So you're basically battling against the system to try to get the best performance. And so one thing that we've seen with creator ads is looking at that percentage. And just in general, you should look at this for all of your prospecting net new customer campaigns. What is the percentage of new customers that are coming from here? You'll find that if you keep putting out the same statics, the same headlines, the same creators, your percentage of new customer visits for those campaigns and ads are going to go down over time. I've seen campaigns where they're only 30 or 40%, which probably means you don't have the right exclusions, you're letting too many retargeting customers in. So if you have all of those things set up, I've seen new creators come into campaigns and you'll see 70 or 80% net new customer visits off of new creators. So that's the first thing you want to look at. The second thing is for the ad side, of course, everyone wants to know, and it's easy, what's my cost per acquisition? What's my ROAS? Those are givens. We have to look at those things. We also want to look at what is the click-through rate and conversion rate. You can have an ad or a creator that's driving incredibly high click-through rates, but their conversion rate is really bad. We need to take a step back and say, okay, there's something about this ad that's really good. Whether it's clickbaity, maybe there's something, but there's something that isn't resonating with our product landing page or pricing, right? And so we need to take a look at that ad and say, okay, here's where it dropped off. Here's where I think here's where I think maybe we can change this, because ultimately there's something about that ad by click-through rate, which is great, but you got to make sure it matches that experience on the other end. Otherwise, you're just paying to amplify an ad that isn't going to drive conversion.
Yeah, and something that I think it's funny, you mentioned we're kind of fighting against this machine that wants us to spend more money. We're getting less out of it. And it makes me think about how, even with creatives, you talked about trends before. And I think that's also very important because trends are going to get the most exposure because everyone's looking at them. But then, so we want to stand out. We try to do something different, but that we need to understand that that may not get as much traction at first, but we're doing something different and that's going to make us stand out. So it's also counterintuitive because We don't want to jump into this bandwagon and, like pistachio was everywhere, right? Dubai chocolate was everywhere. If you do it now, you're late to the game, but at the same time, if you do something different, you're not in the same space as everyone else. And so with trends, you need to understand that to break that cycle, you may be a lone wolf at the beginning until the trends catch up with you. And then by the time everyone's trendy, you've been doing it for a long time and you're already doing something else. So it is a risk that I think is worth it. But at the same time, you need to, I think that in terms of expectations, just know that you may be alone at first, but things will catch up. One of the things that comes to mind was the small videos on the small reels on Instagram last year that were super long and horizontal. Everyone was doing that, and it lasted literally 10 days, and it died off. And so I think that it's super important to be very quick to jump into those things. You can't be late to the game, but know that you need to do something different to stand out. Now we have some questions, and this has been a lot of content in regards to whitelisting. So I would love to get to the questions in a second, but before we jump into that, what are the main the things that people are getting wrong in this game?
What are people getting wrong? I think we talked about this earlier of like, hey, they don't test enough. And I think in especially in this world where, you can't just throw up an ad and it just works anymore. And so you have to test at higher volumes. You have to test outside of the box. When we're not talking about testing different colors, different things, like we really need to expand that testing and think through those personas. I also don't think majority of people and brands, big or small, know who their personas are. They know who probably one profile is, but they never build out persona maps for all the different types of customers. Where are they at in the buying journey? Where do they buy from? What influences them to buy? Like having that exercise is something we do with all of our partners when we get started on whether it's paid media or creative, because we have to understand, who do you think your customer is? Then we do our own research and we say, well, here's who your customer is for sure, but here's all these other customers that we think you're already doing that you're not speaking to. And by the way, here's all these other customers that don't even know about us that we think that we could find some pockets of scale within. Most people don't have those things mapped out. The most sophisticated brands, they will look at and name their customers and they're like, okay, this is Pamela, this is Angela, this is Nick, this is James, and they have different, and we communicate differently to them. We have different creative for them, different offers maybe even for where they're at. So I think more brands, if they really focused on those things, they would be able to get the influencers they want, find the people they want, and ultimately drive more revenue for their business.
I agree, and I see that a lot also within influencer programs where brands say, "I want to do influencer marketing." We're like, "Okay, well, who do you want to reach, or what kind of profile would you like us to work with?" And they say, "I don't know, but I want just blast it, get it everywhere." And yeah, and I think that ends up taking a lot of time, effort, and money because you need to. For us, we'll say yes. Okay, let's do seeding. Let's do massive. We want everyone to know you. But if you can get more precise, then it's always going to be better at the end of the day. And there's so
100%.
much data. There's so much data that we can also get and reporting with the ads that it's just, I feel like it's throwing money away if we don't dive into that. Okay, what are we doing? What are our numbers saying? Who is looking at us? Why does this work and this didn't work? There's so much data just by running ads that we can get that not diving into that would be wasting some time, I think.
100%. And in a world of AI, there's just no excuse anymore. Every day you could be talking to Claude, which is my preferred system for ideation, and you can be coming up with different personas. I talk to my Claude every single day about different things, and it understands the different personas that I'm going after for different partners I work with. And I'm always feeding it more information. We're doing real time research, and we can use that to build out our personas and match them back to what we want to do for our marketing.
Yeah, I think AI within the influencer marketing world, that may be one of our next sessions because there's so much that's going on tap right now from different brands, especially if you're a smaller brand. If you're big, it's probably a given. But if you're a smaller brand and you're overwhelmed by how much there is to do, and you're not using any AI tools, or you're only using it to talk about, like feedback about ideas, there is so much more that you can do, especially in reporting and numbers. There's so much that we can dive into it. So if you enjoyed today, stay tuned, because I know that that's coming up. But Nick, we have a lot of questions that I feel it could be great to go over. And one of them, and I'm very curious myself, is do you see a difference in performance with smaller creators or larger creators in whitelisting campaigns?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes and no. If you're working with a really big creator, right, that's a celebrity, a known person, of course that ad is going to take off because you've got their audience, their fans, their notoriety. There's no doubt against that. But if we're talking about creators that have like 1,000 followers versus 100,000 followers, the only difference really, if you're running ads behind it, is going to be the quality. They could have the exact same quality. And you might have to sometimes pay for the higher, influencer because they have more followers and stuff. This person at 1,000 followers could end up making way better content for a fraction of the cost. And so I always look at, let me see your content. Let me understand it. Show me your metrics. Who have you worked with? Because if the lower creator with lower followers has made better content or the same content, you're going to get a way better bang for your buck than the bigger influencer. You do not have to use expensive influencers.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the money that you saved up, you can continue using it to push that ad and to, expand even more. Yeah, I totally agree with
Or get
that.
more creators.
Yeah, of course. And there's so much in the micro nano creator world that we could discuss. We do have, I think, a complete guide in the Influencer Hero site where you can really dive into why you should be working with them. Everybody wants the big celebrities and people, but we know that for conversions, that's usually not the best. Now, and I'm interested also in this one. Which social media platform tends to perform best for whitelisting? Because I know that there's so much nuance here. But maybe we can talk a little bit about the different platforms and the differences between them.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say number one, Meta has built, unfortunately and fortunately, the best advertising platform, and no one has come even close. Like, I think Google's a rival, but it's a totally different world, right? If
Yeah.
you're talking about like social platforms, Facebook's number one. You can't do anything without it. Number two, though, is TikTok. And I don't think everybody should be on TikTok, right? Maybe that's a controversial take. But if you're doing TikTok shops and you have a product that is between $10 and $80, you're going to absolutely smash on TikTok shop. TikTok is investing tons, billions of dollars in free incentives for brands. There are a lot of creators there. And then you can take those same creators and move them over to your Facebook ads. And so I always love to do the arbitrage of where are people at, which is TikTok, and where am I getting the best bang for my buck, which I think right now is TikTok for a lot of brands. But
Mhm.
number one, you got to be on Meta first. I think a lot of businesses have been built on TikTok, and they're going to slowly get more and more expensive as time goes on. And there's a lot of bigger brands that are now starting to catch wind of TikTok, just like the early days of Meta. But those are the two like must-haves for paid social. YouTube Shorts can definitely be something I've seen definitely whitelisting for YouTube brands before, but I think those two are the biggest.
Yeah. And I would say that YouTube is also very niche dependent. We work with a brand and they're doing a lot of like conspiracy theory content. And I feel like YouTube, it's such a big world for them. Instagram doesn't like that type of content. So I would say that it will depend on your brand as well. Now, something that I love about TikTok Shop is that they tap into the creator commerce space, which isn't well, Instagram tested it, but it wasn't as big of a hit as with TikTok Shop. And then we have the next layer, which is affiliate within their own system as well. So it makes it very easy for brands to run the entire program pretty much within one place, which is just TikTok Shop. So you have the content, you have the commerce, you have the affiliate layer and the incentives. So it's just very, very easy for brands to do that. Now, here's another one. How long do you usually test a whitelisted ad before deciding to scale or pause it?
That's a great question. My go-to for a minimum is always at least 3x my CPA goal. So if my CPA goal is $100, I want to spend at least $300 to see if this ad is going to work. Now, when it gets to that 300 level, we want to look at if it didn't drive any purchases, which would be sad. But we
Mhm.
want to look and say, is there something here on the click to rate, the add to carts, anything else that we can grab it, and hold on to? If you spend that extra 100 and go to $400 and it still isn't driven to purchase, I'd probably cut that off. And it depends on time of year, right? If you're launching a bunch of ads right after a promo, well, that's probably not the best time to run some of those ads, but still could influence some of that. But I think you always want to run at least 3 to 5x whatever your CPA target is for any one individual ad.
Okay. No, that makes okay, that's awesome. Now we have some time for extra questions if anyone wants to ask anything. But I do want to remind everyone that there's going to be a lot of free resources after this webinar. You're going to get everything over email, but there is a creator ready PDF on how to pitch whitelisting to your creators. So if you are running a creator program, but you don't know how to pitch this idea, you're going to have everything there from templates that you can use, a couple of ideas, some KPIs, some metrics to look at. Also, the white paper that we launched a couple of weeks ago together with DOE Media, super important. It goes very, very deep into how to do this. Very, very specific. So if you are not super tech savvy and you need to know exactly what to do, this is the best resource. Now you also get 20% discount for Influencer Hero. So if you don't have a plan yet, this is a great moment to start. And also, like Nick mentioned, you're going to get an audit from DOE Media on your paid ads so that if there's anything that you can improve, we want to let you know. We want for our brands to be successful and to really be having a solid game.
Yeah, I just put I put a calendar link in the chat here. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to have their paid media, Facebook, Google, TikTok Shop audited or their creative strategy and see how we can use Influencer Hero in your ads, grow your creator marketing because creator marketing is just going to keep getting bigger from here. Book a time on that calendar and we can have someone on our team audit everything for you and give you the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I see some questions about the recording and slides. Yes, we will share everything after once we're done. You'll get everything over email. Feel free to share it. Also, these are great resources that you can share within your brand, your community, the different marketing teams that are probably in here. And we can't wait to hear all of these success stories about you guys and how you're doing with everything that you learned today. So until next time, we don't have any other questions, but can't wait to see you all again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you also, Nick, for being with us, and shout out to the DOE Media team for joining us today as well.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure.